All right, welcome back to another episode of Sean and Ed's Do Baseball.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Ed's.
And we're bringing you baseball history.
That's right, we're a bi-weekly baseball history podcast where the story catcher doesn't know what the story pitcher is out on the mound throwing them.
That's right, Eds, and let's just say you're gonna be surprised with what I got to throw you today.
All right, I'm gonna hit 60 home runs today.
Maybe. This is more of a hitting for average story,
Okay.
But sure.
All right, fair enough.
Before we start, Edsy, where can people find us?
People can find us on the internet somewhere, the World Wide Web, if you will, at doing.baseball and at doing baseball. If you're looking for us around the internet, find us at one of those two handles. It should lead you in the right direction.
That's right. And wherever you're listening to us, however you're listening to us, thank you for listening. And give us a review, give us a rating, give us a follow, do all that. And if you are of legal drinking age, you can grab yourself a Two Loons, which is our favorite beverage, at Sean Ned's Do Baseball. And if you're in the Ontario province, you can grab yourself a Two Loons at your local watering hole or your local LCBO or beer store. They got a new West Coast IPA, which is friggin' great. And as always,
as you already said, please be of legal drinking age. But also, if you are of legal drinking age, please enjoy responsibly, Sean.
Heck yeah, Edsy. All right. Are you ready? We didn't mention in the wind up here that what kind of pitch I was going to throw you, and I'm going to tell you, it's a curveball. It's going to be a curveball.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to prompt you with that one, but
oh no, it's okay, and it's also we should also mention it's October. We are very cautiously optimistic at this moment with our favorite baseball team, but in October, we bring you baseball history from the postseason, or at least attached to the postseason in some way. We can make it work. So yeah, Edsy, I got a little postseason story for you today.
All right, yeah, as we've said before, we don't have that many rules on the podcast, but this is one of our rules, and we'll be sticking to it today. So I'm excited to hear a story that is postseason involved, I guess. I was going to say adjacent, but it sounds like you have one that is quite involved in the postseason. So.
Oh yeah, well we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about a World Series, kind of. We're going to talk about a person. But we're also going to talk about a World Series, and that's kind of how I learned about said person. So on September 29th, 1940, the Reds finished their season with an 11-3 trouncing of the Pittsburgh Pirates, securing 100 wins and winning the National League pennant by 12 games.
Okay, that's quite a margin.
Yeah, it was easy, right?
Sounds easy.
Exactly. Not only that, the Reds were off to their second World Series in as many years. The year prior, they had broken out after 2 decades of obscurity in the National League, and they had not won a World Series since winning the infamous 1919 World Series, which you might remember more for the Black Sox scandal than the fact that the Reds actually won the World Series.
Mm-hmm. And the Spanish flu.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're out buffing. Yeah, but you're right, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
So 20 years later, they get back to the World Series in 1939, and they get swept by the Yankees. Just tossed.
Okay. Okay.
So in 1940, the Reds would return to the big dance. But this time they'd be playing for more than just to prove that they could compete with the American League. The Reds were playing for one Willard Hershberger.
Okay. I've never heard of him.
All right, you answered my next question.
Okay.
So, Willard Hershberger was born May 28th, 1910. He was the oldest child and only boy of the family. He was in Fullerton, California, or they moved to Fullerton, California. He grew up in California. His dad, Claude, worked in the oil business. He's a standout athlete in high school. He's also smart. He's the class vice president, and he's captain of the baseball and basketball team. At home, things were not as good. The oil boom in Southern California subsided, and his dad soon found himself in pretty bad debt. And Willard, at 16, 17, somewhere in there, actually I think he was 17, 18, he's like an avid hunter and fisherman. Like he's popular, but he's not like a kid that's always hanging out. He likes going off on his own and shit. And in his senior year of high school, Willard returns from a day of hunting and leaves his shotgun in the hallway before going to bed.
Okay, I'm afraid of the foreshadowing that you're setting up right here.
Yeah. So his father, in the middle of the night, takes said shotgun and offs himself. And of course, Willard is awoken and finds his father. So he is.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
Fucked up.
Yeah. Apparently, he reacted by becoming a chain smoker as a teenager. Although I did find a Sporting News article later on that described him as a light smoker, so maybe he was just hiding it or a profile. But either way, he's not, and he also becomes, he becomes a little bit of a hypochondriac, a little bit of insomnia, and he becomes really attached to his mom. And in fact, he vows to his mother that he will never marry as long as his mother is alive.
Okay, it's a bit of a strange reaction, but okay.
Well, he blames himself, and so yeah, a little bit strange. And despite losing his father in like a seriously traumatic way, Willard was still able to put together a great senior year on the ball diamond. With the help of future Hall of Famer Archie Vaughn at shortstop, Willard, who played catcher, led Fullerton Union High School to a California State High School baseball championship. So the scouts are like, hell yeah, let's go. Archie Vaughn, as you may know, Hall of Famer.
I got dibs on this guy. Shotgun.
That's basically what scouting is, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a morbid joke. I'm sorry, but
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
So they're both viewed as potential major leaguers. Vaughn signs with Pittsburgh, and Hershberger would be signed by the Yankees soon after high school.
Okay.
So he gets sent to El Paso. They start him like right at the bottom. And he plays for both the 1930 and 1931 season in El Paso. He hit a ridiculous 356 in 110 games in his second year in El Paso. And the next year he shot through the majors playing for the Class B Erie Sailors, the Class A Springfield Rifles, and finally the AA Newark Bears. After hitting 300 again over 300 again in 1933 in Class A Billington, it was clear he was blocked and he couldn't really go anywhere in the Yankees organization because the Yankees had Bill Dickey, who's a Hall of Famer, behind the plate, and they were winning. So he's a catcher with like nowhere to go right now.
Okay.
And he heads west. He goes out to the Pacific Coast League, as so many of our players do. He plays for the Hollywood Stars, and he bounces between the PCL and then back to AA Newark from 1934 through 1937. At age 27, Willard looked like he may never make the big leagues, despite being a solid defensive catcher and hitting for fucking 300 everywhere he went. So finally, the Yankees traded Hershberger to the Cincinnati Reds in December 1937 for future All-Star, also future All-Star for the Reds, although he's going to the Yankees, Eddie Miller, and $40,000.
Okay. I have a question before you continue. Maybe this is a dumb question, but
sure.
What was the PCL affiliated at this time, or was it a completely separate league?
No, completely separate at this time.
Okay.
But like you could loan players to it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
like
he was still under Yankee control despite playing in the PCL, but
yeah,
it wasn't like their AAA team or whatever like it is now.
Yeah. No. Back then it was like, okay, fine, you can go out there and they'll pay you like. It was probably the equivalent back then of like a guy going to Japan or Korea for a year, right? Like, they'll pay you like $1 million as opposed to 50,000. But
okay, I got you.
So he gets traded to the Reds, but the Reds have a Hall of Famer as well behind the plate with Ernie Lombardi. But he did need a reliable backstop, and that's what the Reds saw in Hershberger. So Hershberger made the team, and he played acceptably for the 82-68-1 fourth place Reds. He got into a number of games as a pinch hitter and had to fill in quickly as Lombardi hurt his finger on May 8th. The next day, Hershberger would go 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs, a run scored, helping his team pull to a comfortable 9-4 victory. Lombardi returned soon after, but Willard had made a great impression on his first time filling in for his popular counterpart. In his first taste of the big leagues ball in 1938, Willard would hit .278 in just 105 at-bats. He had no power, Edsy. He hits 2 doubles and a triple. I'm 99.9% sure he never hits a home run ever. And his counterpart, Lombardi, would win the MVP, leading the league with a .342 average.
Okay, so he's essentially blocked against it. He's like Richie Ashburn right now, but a catcher.
Yeah, he can hold his own. I mean, he hit, .276. He didn't get many extra base hits, but he's a good catcher too, right? Like he's just kind of, I think he's just happy to be on the team, though, because he's not, in the minors anymore. So the next year, though, Hershberger did his absolute best to outdo Lombardi. 1939 was easily Willard's best season as he hit .345 in 192 at-bats. He played 60 games behind the plate. He was dubbed Little Slug by his Reds teammates, opposed to Lombardi, who was known as Big Slug.
Okay. I don't like those nicknames, but...
Well, he's kind of, I don't know, he's 5'10", like 165. Like, he's not a big guy. Like, he's slight, and his counter, Lombardi's like a big, and he's the big dude. So he's Little Slug, Lombardi's Big Slug. His teammates spoke highly of him, including second baseman Lonnie Frey, who talked about Hershberger's big hits for the team. And I quote, "Boy, he was tough in the clutch, and he had a peculiar habit out there. Every time we had men on base and Hershey came up to hit, before he went up to the plate, he bent down and untied, then retied his shoestrings, but only when it meant something. I remember the guys would see him doing that, and someone would say, 'Hershey's bearing down. Hershey's tying his shoes.'"
What a weird pre-batting ritual. Like, that makes Nomar Garciaparra seem like, nothing.
I love it. I love that you just tie your shoes when you got runners on.
Yeah.
They win the pennant. As I mentioned, though, right? The World Series is not good. They win the pennant in 1939, and they're swiftly swept by the Yankees. Willard gets into 3 games, though, 3 of the 4 mainly as a defensive substitute or a late inning pinch hitter, though. In Game 7 of Game 4, in the 7th inning of Game 4, Hershberger got a pinch hit RBI single to tie the game, but the Reds would lose the game and the series in 10 innings.
Okay.
Despite the loss, the team had gone from worst to first in 2 seasons, and Hershberger was a big part of that, right? They got like a Hall of Fame catcher, but now they got a guy that's like backing him up that can hit 345, even though he doesn't hit any home runs. And yeah, they went back to the World Series, but they lost.
Okay, well that's good. I mean, to comment on that, I mean, it's, as we know, it's important to put the ball in play. So, and at 342, he's obviously putting it in quite a bit. So, obviously that helped a fair.
I think it was 345. Don't sell him short.
Okay, sorry, 345.
So he seemed. Now I'm checking that. Yeah, it was 345. He seemed to be well liked by his teammate, but as I mentioned, he's pretty antisocial. He doesn't go to social events, and for the time, right? This is the late 30s, early 40s. He's not a big drinker, apparently. And the Sporting News reporting that he rarely drank liquor in any form, and as I mentioned before, that he was a light smoker, just a light smoker.
Okay.
So on the road,
based on his troubled childhood, I'm quite amazed that he's not a heavy drinker. But
yeah, well, I guess
based on the times.
Based on the times, for sure. I mean, he leaned into the smoking at the time.
Yeah.
So he spent his evenings in his hotel room reading hunting and fishing magazines. He, of course, supported his mother, and he kept his pledge. He's not dating. Nope.
So he's like a 40s incel, is what you're telling me.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
He's getting almost to 30, right? He doesn't make the major leagues till he's like 28.
Yeah.
So he's a little bit of a loner, and he'd go hunting, and he started collecting antique guns.
Okay. Well, hold on. I would actually like to. I've thought about my statement before, and I would like to retract that because he is a voluntary celibate. So never mind what I said.
He's very voluntary. Yeah. Yes, I guess. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that. He gets a raise to $6,500 in 1940, and Willard and the Reds got to work dominating the National League. Okay. He was doing well on the field, but his trauma off the field and anxiety was starting to show up. He constantly complained to Reds trainers about being ill, and he took a large supply of medicines and like pills with him wherever he traveled. Okay. His teammates noticed this, and they'd fuck with him. Absolutely just be like, "Oh, your arm looks yellow." And he would like run off to the trainer and be like, "Oh my God." So,
okay.
I don't know if he did really like him.
You did mention that he was a bit of a hypochondriac.
Yeah. So he complains. They fill his locker with like empty pill bottles and stuff as well. So the team's jabbing on him a little bit. He seemed to take all of this well, with the Sporting News saying, and I quote, he could take kidding better than any of them, and a joke always brought a hearty laugh from him.
Okay, on the surface.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you nailed it, NC. I just have. He may have acted that way outwardly, but in private, things were not going well. His roommate, third baseman Lou Riggs, would sometimes wake up at night and see Hershberger smoking and just staring out the window. So once again, a little insomnia and chain smoking and just kind of dissociative behavior, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And the team at this point, though, is leaning on Hershberger more than they ever had to before. He does a hell of a job this year because Lombardi keeps getting hurt. So Hershberger hits 429 and 35 at-bats in May And on July 23rd, he went 4 for 5 in the second half of a doubleheader to bring his average on the season to 378, past the halfway point of the season.
Okay, well, that's pretty good.
But this is when things started to go very bad.
All right.
So,
tell me.
After a few days, Lombardi suffered an injury, and Hershberger was thrust back into the starting role. He had earned it, of course, with his play on the field, but off the field, it was not getting good. He was a little bit moody, but also he begins to lose weight, which is not a good sign as well. He's very irritable. And then he starts suggesting to teammates that he may just kill himself.
Oh, all right. Please tell me they stopped making fun of him.
I think they did, but like it's kind of a slow build. It's not all at once. Like there's a very, who knows? It was 1940, but I don't think this was. I think this. Yeah, anyways, we'll summarize it at the end. Okay. Cincinnati was 8 games up on Brooklyn in the National League. As I mentioned at the beginning, like they dominate the National League this year. So on July 26th, they're up 8 games on Brooklyn. Lombardi gets hurt. They're in no danger of blowing it, right? They're 8 games up, and I'm not saying this facetiously. Like they're fine.
Yeah.
And the team loses 3 of their next 4 games, though. Okay. And Hershberger takes it very badly. Since his big game a week earlier, he'd gone 1 for 21 at the plate. After the game on July 29th, so he's 1 for 21. He's going through it for 4 or 5 game stretch. In the game, Willard goes 0 for 4 against the Giants. And in the 8th, the Giants come back to tie the game, and then they win it in the 9th. The Reds and Hershberger bounced back the next day and got a win. He got an RBI single in the first, and then he went 3 for 4. So, this baseball sucks, but then you bounce back, and the next day you do fine. On July 31st, the Giants walk it off again against the Reds. This time, the Reds had a 4-1 lead going into the 9th inning, and the Reds got 2 outs, but baseball is cruel, Etsy.
Mm-hmm.
Walk, home run, and that was basically game.
Okay.
So, Harry Danning hit the home run, and Hershberger was absolutely devastated. Cincinnati's third baseman, Bill Werber, sat across from him on the Reds train and said that Willard kept blaming himself for the loss. And I quote, "I called for the wrong pitches. If Lom had been there, we wouldn't have lost. I've let the team down."
Okay, that's that's being quite harsh on yourself there, Willard.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm like, you're not even the pitcher, but I guess he blames himself for the pitch calling at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So Werber tries to console him, and they spend the day off together with Hershberger, continuing to beat himself up about the loss. And, not just that loss, but they, lost a number of games, and they lost 2 out of 3 in walk-off, and he's blaming himself. They went to a movie. Hershberger couldn't sit still. Several times he got up and went out to the lobby during the movie. So he's just kind of we could probably smoke in a theater back then. I don't think there's any
Actually,
problem.
yeah, I'm sure you could.
Yeah, this theater is full of smoke, Etsy.
Yeah.
So on August 2nd, Willard continues to struggle at the plate. He goes 0 for 5 with a walk in a 4-3 loss, which was once again a stinging walk-off defeat. Boston rallied for 2 in the bottom of the 8th to tie it before Chet Ross single won it for Boston in the 12th. But at halfway point in the game, something weird happened. In the 6th inning, Boston's Max West bunted a ball out front of home plate. Hershberger just stood there.
That is weird.
So the Reds pitcher, Whitey Moore, picks it up. He throws it out. He throws West out. And this is where we introduce the Reds manager, Billy McKechnie. So you've probably heard of Billy McKechnie before. And he's, I guess, kind of the hero in this story. I don't know. He might be a bad guy. We could do an episode on him. But McKechnie rushes out of the dugout. And he asks Hershberger if something was wrong. And Hershberger says, you bet there is. And then he replies, I'll tell you after the game. And then just goes back to catching. And
okay.
Obviously.
It's very ominous.
Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, after the game, McKechnie takes the catcher to his hotel suite. Hershberger laid on the couch, and McKechnie said he cried like a kid. He cried for an hour, and then he told me that he was worried about the club losing games he had caught. Poor kid, he was worked up, particularly about the game in New York on Wednesday night in the 9th inning. He said he thought he had called the wrong pitches. So the manager's like, hey, like, you're fine. Like, it's okay. Like, everybody's cool. We're gonna get through this. So McKechnie is like, oh shit, this is not good. And to his credit, he really tries to talk to Hershberger.
Okay, yeah. Well, it sounds like Hershberger is suffering from a severe case of depression and self-doubt. And anyway.
Yeah, and he tells McKechnie this. The manager reassures the catcher, but Hershberger does say that he's contemplating killing himself. He mentioned that his father, he tells McKechnie all about his father's suicide, and he figures he'd just do the same. McKechnie did everything he could to reinforce to Hershberger that everything was okay, and Willard seemed to, he spends the whole night with McKechnie, and they seems to be feeling better.
Uh-huh.
The two men went out for dinner, and when McKechnie went to bed, he was thinking that he had basically just saved Hershberger's life. And the next day, Hershberger is downstairs in the lobby, and he's having breakfast, and various teammates ask him if they want to share a ride to Braves Field for the second. They got a doubleheader that day against the Boston Braves. Mm-hmm. So he declined, and he says he's waiting on somebody apparently. And then Paul Derringer, one of the Reds pitchers, is the last Red to see him. And Hershberger said, and I quote, "I'm going to come out soon, catch one game, and go 4 for 4."
Okay. He's trying some positive affirmations there.
Yeah, but he doesn't show up to batting practice, and McKechnie gets worried. So he asks Gabe Paul, who's the Cincinnati's traveling secretary, to phone his room, and Hershberger answers and told Paul that he was not feeling well. Told him that Paul tells him, he's just like, look, you don't have to play, but just come to the field. McKechnie wants you at the field. You don't have to play at all.
Yeah.
And he promised he'd be there soon, but Willard Hershberger did not show, and McKechnie knew that something was really wrong, and at this point he knew he had to address his team on the matter as well. So in between games of the doubleheader, once Hershberger doesn't show up, he says, and I quote, or he addresses the team and says, and I quote, "We have an unusual sick man amongst us who must be treated differently than we are in the habit of treating one another. We must cease playing jokes on him, and above all, we must cease asking him how he feels. He is so sick mentally that we must overlook anything he does and try to raise his spirits back to normal."
Okay, well, that's nice and very progressive of them, I feel, for the time. Sounds like they're being very accommodating to his situation.
Well, yes, and McKechnie, as I say, is a bit of the hero, but unfortunately, they send a fan of all, he's like a friend and a fan. His name's Dan Cohen. They send him to the Copley Plaza to check on him, and he had basically gone into the bathroom, removed his shirts, and cut his own throat.
Oh my God. And
Yeah.
he's deceased now, I'm
He
assuming.
killed himself after, sometime
Oh,
after talking to the team secretary.
okay. Well, that's very sad.
Yes, it is very sad. Um, yeah, McKechnie gets news. I should say as well, like he is the first Major League Baseball player ever to commit suicide like during the season, which is
Okay.
just an unfortunate statistic.
Yeah. Okay.
So McKechnie gets news during the game, and the team's already on the field, and he's just like fuck. So he doesn't say anything, and he doesn't say anything till after the game ended. He, you know, just tells the team after. He says that he's going to keep what mainly was said between him and Hershberger the night before private, and he he just swears he just tells them like we got to do this.
Yeah.
So McKechnie's biographer wrote of the incident. Of McKechnie's thoughts on it, and I quote, "He didn't kill himself because of poor performance on the baseball field, real or imagined. Willard Hershberger was mentally ill, a victim of crippling, unrelenting depression."
Yeah. And obviously some generational trauma there.
Yeah, and there's many people lament Hershberger as well, including Cincinnati pitcher Gene Thompson. And he says, and I quote, "I don't think Hershey realized he was near as good as he was. We pitchers just thought he was outstanding. Most guys with Hershey's ability would say, 'Trade me. I want to go to a place where I can catch every day.' He had no confidence. He was just satisfied being Lombardi's backup."
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, they retire his jersey temporarily because he wears number 5. Reds fans out there, Johnny Bench. And they wear black armbands. And the players vow that they're going to win the World Series in Hershberger's honor and get his mother that sweet, sweet World Series cash.
Okay. Honorable, I suppose.
On August 8th, the Reds held a brief memorial service at Crossley Field, where the center field flag was lowered to half-staff. Fans and players stood for a moment of silence, and then the season went on, with McKechnie imploring his players, and I quote, "We must now win the pennant and give his widowed mother a full share of the World Series money, and I know you fellas will win it."
All right. Nothing left to do but win the whole fucking thing.
There we go. We lost Willie, but we're going hard. So the team could probably, they're traumatized also. They just lost a friend and a teammate, and Paul Derringer, is last to see him and feels terrible. And there's, as we'll go through. So the team doesn't play their best over the month of August, right? And the good news, though, because the Reds were so good, was not playing their best, was going 15-13.
All right.
Yeah.
Not spectacular, but holding their own.
Yeah. That's like borderline good for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they do win 100 games, though. So that's like kind of, that's a bad month for a team that wins 100 games. In that time, they actually gained a game on Brooklyn, though. And then they just absolutely ran away with it in September. They go 23-8, including an 11-game win streak. They finish the year with a 12-game lead, and they go back to the World Series.
All right.
And, we focused on Hershberger a lot, but this team is absolutely stacked. They have MVPs, multiple MVPs, and they have 3 out of the top 4 vote getters for MVP that year, which includes MVP first baseman Frank McCormick, who led the league in hits, but they also have Bucky Walters, who led the pitchers in the NL in almost every category, followed by the aforementioned Paul Derringer, whose numbers were just behind Bucky Walters. They also had 2 more players in the top 10, Ernie Lombardi, the catcher, as well as third baseman Bill Werber. And they weren't done because they also had a relief pitcher named Joe Beggs, who got finished 17th in MVP voting that year for some reason. So, yeah.
Okay, so we got like a 40s version of the Big Red Machine.
Yeah, they're good. They got 6 out of the top 20 players according to MVP voting. On the left side, though, Lombardi, the catcher, as we've talked about, he has badly sprained his ankle on September 15th in Brooklyn, and that ends his regular season. So he is only available, we'll get to it, but he's only available in very certain situations. And now, as mentioned with Hershberger, they don't have a regular catcher. And McKechnie has 2 rookies, one by the name of Bill Baker and the other by the name of Dick West. And he's like, fuck it. There's a 39-year-old coach named Jimmy Wilson who had played a total of 7 MLB games over the previous 2 seasons combined. And he's like, he's my guy for the World Series.
Okay. That seems insane, but all right.
But Jimmy Wilson was he's 39. He had his own career. Like, he's a good player in his time, but he just hadn't. That's what in 1938, 1939, he plays in 7 games combined.
Yeah.
And then 1940, and they're just like, okay, pen and stretch, World Series. It's like, it would be like if Alejandro Kirk, sprained his ankle and Tyler Heidemann died tragically, and then John Schneider was just like, I'm catching.
Okay.
Well, I mean, this is McKechnie's choice, and he's like, Jimmy Wilson, stop coaching and start catching.
Yeah.
So Detroit this time is their counterpart. They take the American League crown in 1940. The AL has a much tighter race than the NL, with Detroit finishing 1 game ahead of Cleveland and 2 games ahead of the powerhouse Yankees. The Tigers also had 6 of the top 20 MVP finishers in their own league. And as we've mentioned on previous episodes, they did have, of course, one Hammer and Hank Greenberg. So,
okay, so pretty good matchup is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, they got Rudy York, who's their first baseman. They got Barney McCoskey. They also had a pretty darn good rotation themselves with Bobo Newsom, Tommy Bridges, and Schoolboy Rowe.
All right, those are some names.
I love Bobo.
I know.
We'll get to Bobo.
I was going to comment too. I also love Bobo Newsom. So, we got an MVP nickname lineup too.
We do. Schoolboy Rowe is just spectacular. I haven't looked into that one. I didn't have time, but
I'm pretty sure that's a rapper.
Should be. So game 1 is in Cincinnati. I think it's like a 2 in Cincinnati, 3 in Detroit, then back 2 in Cincinnati to finish it. And Detroit sends Bobo Newsom to the hill, and Cincinnati counters with Paul Derringer, which is a little interesting to me because they had their other guy, they had their other ace pitcher. Where am I trying to find it? What is his name? Bucky Walters. But they decide to go with Derringer. And the Tigers beat up on Derringer in the second, scoring 5 runs. And that's all they would need, as they won game 1, 7-2. Bobo Newsom pitched a complete game, allowing 2 runs on 7 hits. But tragedy struck for the Tigers that night, Edsy, as well.
Okay.
Bobo Newsom's dad was visiting to watch his son pitch, and he, I believe, dies of a heart attack in his hotel room later that night.
Okay. I thought you were going to say he found his shotgun, but...
No, jeez. Call back. The Tigers now had their own tragedy, and they could not muster any offense in Game 2. giving Cincy fans quite a scare by jumping out to an early lead. But the Reds' Bucky Walters was clearly a bit nervous as he walked the first two batters, and which were followed by a single by Charlie Gehringer to make it 1-0. And put runners on first and third. But Bucky settled in and got Hank Greenberg to hit into a double play. And despite giving up a run on the double play, he gets out of the first with a 2-0 deficit and basically shuts them down afterwards. The Reds struck back with 4 singles in 5 batters to start the second and tie the game against Schoolboy Rowe. The next inning, they took the lead with a Jimmy Ripple 2-run home run, and they never looked back. Bucky Walters, complete game, 3-hitter. He allows 3 runs on 3 hits, as Greenberg did touch him up for an RBI double in the 6th. But the Reds win 5-3, and they even up the series at 1 game apiece. And that's a trend. We're just going to go back and forth here. It's just Detroit, Cincinnati, Detroit, Cincinnati. Detroit, now at home, took Game 3, 7-4, collecting 13 hits, the biggest of which were in the 7th inning with Rudy York and Pinky Higgins, both hitting 2-run home runs. Cincinnati bounced back right away in Game 4, scoring 2 runs in the first and never giving up the lead. Paul Derringer pitched a complete game and only gave up 5 hits and was still lucky to give up just 2 runs because he walked 6. So 5 hits, 6 walks, only 2 runs.
That's unfathomable.
So Charlie Gehringer, he got him to hit into a double play twice, which definitely helped with that. And Cincinnati evens it up, so it's 2-2. And Game 5, the ball goes to none other than Bobo Newsom. So he returns to the bump for Detroit in Game 5, and his family's all gone back to Hartsville, South Carolina to bury his father, and he stays behind to pitch. And he pitches the absolute shit out of the ball, Edsy, and he throws a complete game 3-hit shutout.
All right. Dad's honor.
Absolutely. That was a huge story at the time too, right?
Of course.
The Tigers, and also it puts the Tigers 3-2, right? So you got 2 chances now to put Cincinnati away. Mm-hmm. And I did start writing at one point it was do or die time, and then I was like, that's kind of a poor analogy given the circumstance.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. They decide, they're like, we're going to give the ball to the 1939 MVP, Bucky Walters, who also, he was greatly affected by the death of Hershberger. He was pitching in one of the losses that Hershberger took particularly hard, and his grandson even would later say, and I quote, "It had an impact on my grandfather that was never discussed, but recognized as to the core deep."
Okay. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I could see how you would feel guilty about the stuff that went on there.
Oh my God, absolutely! Like this whole team is had to battle through losing a teammate halfway through the season, and they're all dealing with their own shit. And as his grandson said, it's just we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
They fucked him up.
They literally said the team policy was that let's not talk about this. Yeah,
let's just win.
Yeah.
So, Bucky Walters puts the Reds on the board in Game 6. He pitched a 5-hit shutout as well as hitting a home run. So just hell yeah, pitchers.
Yeah.
And the Reds absolutely shit-kicked Schoolboy Rowe. Schoolboy Rowe did not have a great series. I wrote nearly the opposite of a complete game, as he only recorded 1 out in the first inning. Mm-hmm. He got
more like
4 hits.
More like Schoolboy Blow.
Sure.
I know. So, that was a weak one.
It's terrible. They trade shutouts, right? So the Reds win, and now we're going to Game 7. So Detroit goes, Bobo, we're doing this. And he's on 1 day rest. And they're like, we're go. And the Reds decide that they're going to go with Paul Derringer on 2 days rest.
Okay.
And this is probably one of the best Game 7 pitching matchups. Like just how it ended. Like I'm trying to think of like Game 7 of like the 2001 World Series, or there's been some gems of like, but these guys go full complete game, hour and 47-minute game, Edsy.
Jesus, that's pretty quick. My thought immediately went to 1991 World Series Game 7.
Yeah.
Extra inning complete game by our friend Jack Morris. But anyway, carry on.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, that's a good one. So the Tigers strike first. They actually get to Derringer a little bit. Charlie Gehringer gets to Derringer. He hits an RBI infield single in the top of the third, but Billy Sullivan actually scores from second on an infield single because Reds third baseman Billy Werber throws the ball away, or at least offline enough that the runner rounds third and takes home. And there's 2 out now and 2 on, both in scoring position, I believe, and Hank Greenberg is up at the plate. And Derringer strikes him out.
All right. Big spot, big moment. Great job.
Yeah. And Bobo is cruising as well. Finally, in the 7th, the Reds managed to break through. Frank McCormick, MVP, leads off the inning with a double, and Jimmy Ripple's like, hey, I'm going to do that too. And they do that, and they tie the game at 1. And next came up Jimmy Wilson, who was 2 for 2. Jimmy Wilson, the 39-year-old coach turned catcher.
Who's played 7 games in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played about 16 games in the end, if you include the World Series or whatever, in 1940. So, just but he's 2 for 2. He's got 2 singles and a walk. He's ready to go. He's got a runner in scoring position, and he bunts. He bunts to get Ripple to third. And after an intentional walk, because Ernie Lombardi is up next, who is, I believe he's either pinch hitting. He has to be pinch hitting at this point. Yeah, he pinch hit here. And then they're like, fuck it, we're walking you. Billy Myers hits a deep fly ball to center field, which is caught, but scores Ripple on the sac fly after our boy Jimmy Wilson's sac bunt.
Okay.
So Derringer then has a 2-1 lead going into the 8th, and he just sits down 6 of the next 7 batters, and the Reds win the World Series.
All right. So they did it. Big W. And they did it. They got the share for Mrs. Hershberger. Very nice.
And it's the first championship for them since 1919, and this is the only one that nobody can comment on the legitimacy now of the Reds championships. So seat cushions flew from the stands, and the fans empty onto the field and join in the celebration. Paul Derringer was hoisted on the shoulders of his teammates in the Reds locker room, and the city celebrated as the streets were filled with confetti. After the celebration, of course, the players voted for Hershberger to get a full share of the World Series pay and sent his mom a check for $5,083.62. The Sporting News would name Billy McKechnie Manager of the Year, not just for winning the World Series, but also navigating his team through the Hershberger tragedy. The Reds would not return to the World Series until 1961 and not win another until 1975, The 1940 World Series remains the only time that Cincinnati has clinched a World Series championship at home. The Reds won the 1919 at Comiskey Park. 1975, they won at Fenway. In 1976, they won in Yankee Stadium. And then in 1990, they won in Oakland, RIP. And that is why the 1940 World Series is that was a wild one for Cincinnati, at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not just because they won at home, but because of all the other stuff that happened. But
oh my God. Yes. I mean, they were just a good team, though. I mean, they probably, in all honesty, I mean, they probably win it easier if Hershberger is around. But no, it is, definitely, it's very sad. Like, it got pretty somber there, rightfully, for a little bit in the middle. But, the Reds really.
It did. It's probably one of the most tragic triumph stories I've ever heard, to be honest.
Well, yeah. I mean, it would have been hard to blow that lead, but, like, clearly the team did not play its best in the month afterwards. And I really, as I say, Bill McKechnie's kind of the hero here, in my opinion, at the end of the day, for his, like, management. Like,
no, I agree. Having to navigate, that tragedy in the season to guide your team to victory, but also just to, I'm sure that was very hard on him as well, so.
Well, yeah, he definitely thought he had, dissuaded him from doing anything, and obviously it didn't work out. So, yeah, I'd say it's very sad. And, I mean, maybe we should throw something on at the beginning here as well, but I was explaining the plot to somebody at my son's one-day birthday party, and I'm like, yeah, basically, so 3 people die, but they win the World Series. They're like, this is a baseball podcast?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. But, yeah, that's the story of Willard Hershberger and the 1940 World Series. Thanks for listening, Etsy.
Well, thanks for telling that story, Sean. That's definitely another one of the stories in this podcast that's going to make a few of our listeners want to hug their families. And I personally want to hug my family right now. But, yeah, that's a great story of, like, a team coming together to, honor their friend. And, they got the job done despite having to deal with some very tragic circumstances. And, as we usually say with some of the more sad episodes like this, if you're feeling sad or feeling anything in the same sort of regard to what we were just talking about, talk to the proper people. You're not alone in those situations, and talking to your friends and getting help is a very important thing. So I'm not very articulate. I'm not very good at articulating these kind of things, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's no shame in reaching out to talk to people, reaching out for professional help. Definitely might have helped in this circumstance, but as I say, it's this was a tough episode, but
it was.
They won. They won in the end of the day. That was a very tragic stat as the first player who ever committed suicide during the season. And I was just reading up on World Series, and of course it was just kind of a passing of the tragic death of Willard Hershberger, and then you're like, oh, what happened there? And you start peeling back the onion, and you're like, this was supposed to be a fun playoff story.
Yeah. But it was not. Hopefully, with what I come back with in 2 weeks will be, possibly a more happy story. But we'll see how that turns out.
I thought you were going to say an even more devastatingly sad story.
No, I'm not sure if I can one-up you on this one there, Sean. But
Oh, I got one in the chamber that could one up.
Okay.
All right, Edsy. Until next time, where can people find us?
People can find us on the internet at Doing Baseball or at Doing.Baseball, as I said before. If you're perusing around the World Wide Web and looking for us, you can find us at one of those two handles. Chime in, give us a story idea. Just generally say hello, join in the conversation. We love talking to you, so, please feel free to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Do give us all of it. Give us a review. Give us a rating. Grab some Tulloons. And until next time, I'm Sean.
And I'm Eds.
We were doing baseball.
Okay, bye.